let's start at the beginning of this, if we can, or certainly a relevant point and try and understand a little bit your story. You received this toxic EMF exposure in 2015. My question is, how did that happen and what sort of symptoms did you experience from that?
So I got a phone call from a person whose solar photovoltaic system was making them sick. And I went out to look at the system and they were right. It was emitting a wide range of EMFs and a lot of radio frequency. And over the following few days, I became quite sickly. So I got curious as to what was going on. And I started looking into the various exposures I received. And everything I was reacting to was consistent with radio wave sickness.
Could you just explain like what the symptoms are so we know what we're talking about? The kind of symptoms?
A big one is mental health. Your memory goes off. You start having serious mental functioning issues. And in me, it was, I couldn't see things that were right in front of me. So I was having vision issues, vision recognition, memory, short-term memory problems was a big feature, and confusion. Yeah, just kind of, that was accompanied with, I became very lethargic as the year went along and ended up in chronic fatigue after a year. So initially it was mental functioning followed by chronic fatigue, and that's how it stayed. It just really wasn't improving. And naturally I was yo-yoing in and out of the doctors. And the reason why it was so bad in me was because I had a depressed immune system. And that depression was coming from the solar photovoltaic system I'd been to just a few weeks earlier. And if we go back before that, I was actually working in high altitude astronomy, which causes hypoxia. So
hypoxia, for people that are not clear, we're talking about a lack of oxygen. Can be lack of oxygen in the body, in the blood. There's various definitions. Yeah.
I'm a recovered electromagnetically hypersensitive person, and I recovered in 2014. And part of that recovery came out of thinning my blood for a prolonged period of time. So I was looking for the cure for my particular variety of VHS. So I started looking into the blood and became aware that the blood cells clump together when they're in an electromagnetic field. When I started going down the route of microclots, I was like, well, how do you get rid of them? And that took me to aspirin. So a lot of people take aspirin to reduce their clotting. So I was like, well, maybe I just need to take a high dose of aspirin for a long time, and maybe that will clear up these microclots that I think I have from ROLU blood formation from this hypersensitivity condition. So I took aspirin probably for about 6 months at full strength, the full recommended strength. And then, I was like, well, have I fully cleared up this microclot condition? And I wasn't convinced I had. So it's like, what else could I do? So I looked into what else had aspirin in it, and Alka-Seltzer has aspirin in it, and it also has bicarbonate. And from my work in dialysis, I knew bicarbonate was part of the treatment for kidney disease. So I decided to switch on to Alka-Seltzer, and I did several months of Alka-Seltzer at full strength. And then after that, I wasn't hypersensitive anymore. It took a while. I think most people who recover from hypersensitivity, it's not an overnight thing. But over the course of several months, I started becoming aware that I wasn't reacting to Wi-Fi routers anymore, or Wi-Fi printers. I could be around them.
Yes.
So I actually have a Wi-Fi router down here about 4 feet away from me.
Okay. So you're not reacting. So that's actually quite unusual. And so the link is that this, as you see it, is that this rouleau effect is causing this micro clotting, as you call it, and that can cause this starvation of oxygen, this hypoxia, which can drive this EMF sensitivity. And obviously there's not just effects on the blood from EMFs. I mean, it's huge how it affects our cells and the DNA and the immune system, as we've talked about, and just pretty much every aspect of our being. But let's talk about circadian rhythm as well then. So you've got this understanding of different aspects of health because you've been kind of this guinea pig. You've experienced these things, these extremes really, that people, other people, you know, many people haven't, because you've worked in these locations which you know, which have caused this reaction, perhaps, that you know, that other people that are not living at these very high altitudes are experiencing. And obviously, you know, we've got studies on this. People who are doing night shifts, we know that it impacts health. You know, there's a price to pay, isn't there, for working at night, very clearly. So yeah, so this circadian rhythm, it's super important for health, isn't it? You know, it's, I mean, basically when we say circadian rhythm, we're talking about this regulation of the body, like this natural rhythm of the body between sleep and wake cycle. Is that how you see it?
There's a guy called Dr. John Nash Ott, American researcher, did extensive research in light back in the 1960s onwards, and he concluded that the light that the body receives is probably the most important aspect of nutrition. And that's how he talked about light. He talked about light as nutrition. And that you go into malnutrition through bad light exposures. And he called it malillumination. So malillumination is prevalent in society. And it comes from a lot of sources. It comes from streetlights, comes from the indoor lighting environment of a nighttime inside the home, television screens, computer screens, telephone screens, you know, all these things that weren't in our environment 100 years ago. So it's a completely unnatural exposure, and it washes out the moonlight. So the moon is on a monthly cycle, and it varies between bright when we have a full moon, and it goes very dark when there is no moon. So, and the moonrise changes every day. It occurs at a different time every night. So if you don't have that cycle, exposure to that cycle, you're going to lose the lunar cycle in the body. And that's part of circadian rhythm disruption, is the loss of the lunar cycle.
I want to thank you so much, Stephen, for being here today, writing the books, sharing this, and yeah, great work you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. Thank you, listener, for attending. My name is Lloyd Borrell from electricsense.com. Until next time, take care. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.